Hey guys, what's going on? It's Positive here. Welcome to a new series that goes in depth about who the top mages in Clash actually are. Okay, so yes, for this video, I took every single mage in the game, took them into a tutorial or into a jungle practice, and I used their abilities once, totaled them up, and got a score, put it on a piece of paper, and this is the paper that it's on. Alright, so first of all, sorry about the iPhone picture, but we will zoom into some key parts here, so it won't be too much of a problem. So, for starters, in the top left, you can see that the average damage across all mages with their abilities used once is 3,430. 12 of the 26 mages are actually above average in terms of damage, and 3 of the 26 are uniquely great at basic attacks, which is really good for pressure on towers and honestly just insane damage when your abilities are down. Before we get any farther than we already are, I just want to say that Discordia will not be ranked in this video, mostly because A, she's broken and they haven't nerfed her yet, but B, she's still new, and honestly, it might not even be that she's broken, it might just be that no one's figured out how to play against her yet, and for those reasons, I just can't rank her. So if I were to take the top 5 highest damaging mages and tell you that that was the list, then Anubis would be the best mage in the game. And I can't deny the damage output on Gubis, but I can deny him being the best mage in the game, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So if we can't base the best mage by damage output, then how do we base them? Well, as far as Clash goes, and in terms of mages, you only really need to look for 3 things in the mage and the god that you want to play. And those 3 things are: how much pressure can I put in a lane, how much damage do I do in terms of objective and player damage, and then 3 is, can I burst them? Can I burst a squishy down all the way to death, completely take that person out of the game? So taking all this information into account, and looking into multiple Clash tier lists, and even tier lists that have to do with the lowest cooldowns on the god, I think that I've came up with my top 5 list of the best mages in Clash. And I hope that you understand that this is my opinion, so obviously if my opinion of the best gods in Clash differ from yours, just try to understand where I'm coming from. I'll explain my choices when you see them, but yeah, keep an open mind, and I'll see you in there. Coming in at number 5, the goddess of night herself, we have Nox. And I'll be honest, Nox is probably one of my favorite goddesses to play right now in terms of mages. Not just because of her 2-1 combo, which can half health pretty much anybody on any team at the late game, maybe even one-shotting squishies, but her Night Terror, her ultimate, it has 40% damage reduction for 5 seconds, and she's the only mage in the game of Smite that reduces the enemy's damage. And if you use this ability properly, like it's supposed to be used at the beginning of a team fight, then the chances of you winning your games go up dramatically. And people have been sleeping on Nox's ultimate, but in all honesty, it's one of the greater ultimates in the class of mages. And on top of all of these things that Nox has, I still haven't mentioned her Shadow Step. If you get a person like Jingwei, or maybe even a Blinking Ymir, or someone with a lot of mobility that you can go into, it can turn a team fight into your favor. Not to mention, her 2 can one-shot the minions at pretty much every stage of the game after it's like level 3, which makes her a pretty good lane pusher. The only reason that she's not higher up on this list is because of the fact that every single one of her abilities is pretty much a skill shot, except for her Shadow Step, which is an AoE if you're inside of a teammate. Coming in at the 4th spot, we have Raijin, and if I would have done this video 2 patch notes ago, then Raijin would be at the number 1 on this list. Fortunately, that's not the case, and he was nerfed like he should have been, but it didn't exactly bring him out of the question. He still has massive damage, and his abilities are on a very low cooldown, not necessarily his ultimate, which you can get to a very low cooldown also, But his abilities in general are very unique because it has tick damage, and it can be spread to multiple people at once. And when that tick damage is over, you only have to wait a few more seconds for it to come back up and for you to be able to use your abilities over again. For this reason, I think that this makes Raijin an extremely good lane pusher, but also Raijin is really good at landing massive damage across multiple people because all 4 of his damaging abilities are area of effect. If you come up against a Raijin that really knows how to play the god, it's really tough to beat him. But that's enough about Raijin. Let's keep this video going and move on to number 3. At number 3 we have the Morrigan, and I don't think I need to explain myself on why the Morrigan is at number 3. If there is a god on the enemy team that you know that you can't beat, and you're just like, wow, they seriously played that person, like we lose now. That's not the case anymore. You have the Morrigan, which means you have that god. See, the Morrigan can beat any god in the game, but she can also be nothing. And I don't mean nothing as like nothing, but like she can be invisible for up to 6 seconds at a time. That's longer than a Loki invis, but she doesn't just go invisible. She gets a 40% movement speed buff. If you can surprise kill somebody as the Morrigan without having to use your ultimate, that's great for a team fight. Because even if one breaks out right there, you can go into your ultimate, use all of that god's abilities, and then when you go back to your true form, your Morrigan form, you'll have your abilities back, ready to use again. She's an insane god. I don't know why they haven't fixed her yet. She's still so buggy. I'm sure she has so much code, but honestly, come on, you have her in the game. You gotta fix her. Slowly but surely, I believe that they will fix her. So for now, she stays at number 3. If she was bug free and if her ultimate wheel was easier to use and easier to choose gods, then she would be at number 1. But for those reasons, she stays at number 3. Let's move on. Oh man, the one that just couldn't make it to number 1. Thoth. Thoth is a tremendous god because of his glyph of pain. What makes this ability so great is its cooldown. Every single time that you need it, it's going to be there for you. And it not only increases the range of all of your abilities, but it increases the damage of all of your abilities. Not only that, but if you're pushing your tower in, you can apply a buff for all of your ranged allies in the area. Trust me, late game, this destroys phoenixes. When the game starts to shift towards the late game, then your evade and punish and hieroglyphic assault combination will be your main source of damage. With a good cooldown build, you can get your hieroglyphic assault cooldown to about 5 seconds. You charge up your ult a couple times, and then your hieroglyphic assault's back up again. You don't even have to use your final judgment if you don't want to, unless you have the shot off for it. The fact that you can do this pretty much for the rest of the entire game makes you a nuisance to everybody, even tanks. Constantly getting stunned by the evade and punish, with the follow-up damage from the hieroglyphic assault, will push out any squishy, any mage, hunter, assassin, whatever. Of course, there are some direct counters to Thoth. I'm not going to let them be known, but if you hate Thoth, pick Kuzenbo. Someone must have had a rough time with a Kuzenbo if they were to come up with that. At last but not least, we have Habois at the number 1 spot. Habois is just... I don't even know how to explain Habois. He's just the bane of my existence. I feel like while the developers were making Habois, someone had to have said, let's just make someone so stupidly overpowered and then never nerf him ever. After this discussion, they would have began development, having him be able to use his 1 for 700 damage, water spout you, use his 1 again, use an ultimate on 3 different people, only for him to use his 1 again, and for him to water slide right out of the danger. Oh yeah, did I mention that he could probably use his water cannon again? I mean, the guy's just ridiculous. Of course it's not as dramatic as I'm saying it. It's just to show you guys what Habois can do, and to say that he's done it. He's done it before, and he'll do it again, because he's the only god in the game that can do this. And just to further improve upon this, I would just like to say that if I were in a 4v5, my god of choice would be Hebois. And I think that most people's choice would be a Hebois too. It's just kind of common sense. If you have that much damage between two abilities and not even have to use your ult, then I'm going to go with that god every time. Of course, don't try this in your ranked games. You will be punished for it. But if you can lay low, hide in the trenches, get your stacks, your warlocks up, your Book of Thoth, whatever you're stacking, get leveled up, then at the end of the game, you will run it. Anyway, guys, this was my top 5 list. I hope that you liked it. If you have anything that you think I could have improved on, put it in the comments down below. Who's your top 5? And at that, who's your favorite god in the game? I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on everything down in the comments. But other than that, this video's done. I'll see you in the next one. Stay positive.